Hey, we're live. We're live there, Chuck E. Cheesers. So, again, got Catherine on with me. Give me just a minute. We'll start the recording for the podcast side of it, and we'll get into some hot topics here in the state of Missouri. So, just uno momento, por favor, and I will get this thing kicked off. And we're back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report, making your eardrums bleed right off the bat, because that's how I like to do things. I like to make your eardrums bleed. Why do I feel like I'm screaming into my mic? Good evening, everyone, and hello, Patrick. I'm joined this week by Catherine Dreher. Again, this is a third time. And, but, you know, third time's a charm, but the first and the second time were charms too. So the third time, super duper charmalicious, I guess we'll say. And good evening, Warrior Class 3. So we got some interesting topics that we're going to be covering tonight, which is, the first one is the Grain Belt Express. I am not up to par on this information, so Catherine will enlighten us along with some other things. So, Catherine, good evening to you.
Hi, good evening. It's always a pleasure.
We always have such a good time when we do this. I have to admit, I really have a good time when I have you on. We just bounce things off each other, and then people think we're high, and we just go on with it. So it's all good.
It is.
So okay, let's just get right into it, Catherine.
Sure.
You'd brought up the Grain Belt Express. So go into what this is, and then we'll hash out the fine details. But what is to do with the Grain Belt Express?
Okay, yeah, the Grain Belt Express. Oh boy. Now, I'm going to start with the caveat that I am not the expert on this. There's been a number of people I've been talking with that have more expertise, and I have asked them to please watch the live stream so that they can comment and fill in the blanks where I might leave something out. So this has kind of been a pretty fast learning curve for me. But the Grain Belt Express is an approximately 800-mile high-voltage direct current HVDC transmission line that's being developed by an organization called Invenergy Transmission LLC. They have headquarters in Chicago, and they have headquarters in Canada. Supposedly, it will deliver, according to their website, they say 4,000 megawatts. I've also seen 5,000 megawatts of low-cost, sustainable power from western Kansas to customers in Missouri and other states in the region. It's essentially going from southern Illinois through Missouri and into Kansas. So, according to Grain Belt Express, it will deliver at least 500 megawatts of power to the electric grid in Missouri, with the option to deliver more. So that's what the Grain Belt Express is, according to the Grain Belt Express. So this has been going on. People have been fighting this for at least a decade, maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years. So as I said, I'm fairly new on the scene. So the Grain Belt already had a long-term transmission service agreement with Missouri Joint Municipal Electric Utility Commission, the MJMEUC, that will provide, clean energy. There's your keyword right there. That should throw up your red flag. And $12.8 million in annual energy savings for 39 municipal utilities across Missouri. So from what I understand, and I'm just getting into the details of what the Grain Belt Express is. So they've contracted with 39 municipalities that can purchase, I believe it's up to 200 megawatts. So these are individual purchases. Over the past 8 years, they've only sold 4%. So this is kind of we want to put this through and then hope we get buyers. So as of right now, it's not even economically feasible. I have yet to get into the eminent domain portion of it, which is the big part of it. But these are the huge, the transmission towers, and they want to put it through the heartland of Missouri. This is farming land. This is agricultural land. And so if you go onto Facebook, you can find like Callaway County against it, Montgomery County, so many different counties that are trying to fight this. So that's the Grainbelt Express in a nutshell. Any questions so far?
Well, I don't really have any questions. Here's my concern.
Okay.
Here's my
I can keep
concern.
going.
Well, here's my
Right.
concern real quick. It's when they're running power lines through several states to supposedly deliver power to us. That means if we start getting this tied up nationwide, multiple states, and that goes down, there's a whole lot of people going to be screwed now to power. I'd rather keep power transmission. But not, I know we got eminent domain and all that to worry about, but that and eminent domain are my two biggest concerns, that we start, lollygagging power lines. Well, we're going to cover multiple states. Yeah, and you're going to have multiple outages in multiple states when this thing goes down because, depending on how they're generating the power that they're running through, because it's clean energy, and we've seen how that's been working out. I would really assume Missouri not become the next California where, because some Yahoo 3 states away decides how much power they're going to put out through the lines, and they're like, well, your smart meter's in your house now, so you can't, it's set at 78 and you can't change it. I have awful nightmares about the things that could happen.
Right. And right now it's looking, the projection is that the Grainbelt Express, is looking to use this for private use and not necessarily opening it up to public bidding. So that's a false pretense. They cannot use it. They cannot use eminent domain if it's not for public use. And as far as I know, I've asked a number of people, is Missouri are we receiving any energy out of this? Are we getting anything out of this? And the answer that I keep hearing is no. So right now, Missouri is not benefiting from this Grainbelt Express. Now, it is not completed. It's still in its phase. They're still trying to get it through the state of Missouri. And that's where what's called the Tiger connector comes in, which is the Tiger connector is about a 40-mile long electric transmission line that will connect existing power infrastructures located in Callaway County, Missouri. And this is where it caught my attention because running for State Senate District 10, Callaway County is in my district. And so I'm trying to learn about what are the concerns of the people in my district. And this one came up. And so I'm trying to learn about it. As I said, I'm not the expert on it, but I want to be a voice of the people that I plan to represent when I'm elected. So that the Tiger connector is to continue the Grainbelt Express, and it will run through Callaway County.
Okay,
So
well, that begs the question. So let's say they're going to go with the the Callaway County nuclear plant. That's what it's going to tie into. Okay, let's just because that's my assumption. The nuclear plant in Callaway County is what they're going to tie into. I would assume.
That could be. I printed so much up before this meeting. Before we talked, I wish I could have sent some of this to you to find the map. So what it's going to do, it will go through Callaway County, through Audrain County, and through Monroe County. So those are the counties that we're dealing with as far as the Tiger Connector.
Okay.
And the Tiger Connector is owned by separate organizations. It's two companies. One is called NextEra Energy, which is out of Florida, and Ranger Power, which is, again, out of Chicago. So I'm getting ahead of myself. They're the ones developing solar farms. So yeah, the Tiger Connector is meant to go through Callaway County, and that's to help extend the Grain Belt Express. Yeah, I'm dealing with two issues here, so I get them a little bit, like I said, I'm not the expert. I get them a little bit confused in my mind, trying to separate out the Grain Belt Express, which are the transmission, the long-term transmission service, and then there's the solar panel farms. We'll get to those in a minute.
Okay.
I know. The point being, these people. So when we're looking at property rights, right? So you own property. You have a right to sell some of that property. Like if I wanted to sell my back, I've got some back acreage and I wanted to sell part of it to a solar farm, I have the right to do that. Or solar, yeah. But there are people that on all three sides, the land has been sold to solar farms. So that's what they get to sit and look at now. So I feel like their property rights need to be protected as well. And this is what they're running into. How can we, protect our state, protect our, our view. We bought this property because we liked the view, and now we get to look at solar farms, or we get to look at these transmission towers. So yeah, that's the background on what the Grain Belt Express is. Yeah. And like I said, I asked some of the people that have better expertise than I do to please, hopefully they will comment and can provide additional information. I'm
picking up what you're putting down. Here's my thing again, and an important point, because you're talking about eminent domain, and they're saying it's going to be privately, private use, not public use. Well, then
exactly.
that should, okay. Let's state the obvious. We need to get rid of eminent domain in the state of Missouri anyway. Okay, we just need to be done with it. But honestly, this could be a major something that we could use to turn the screws and try to screw this for them. Is there, okay, if you're using eminent domain for private use, then you have no constitutional standing. You have no, standing in law in the state of Missouri to do this. So you either A, you get them to admit, okay, it's for public use, or B, which is the preferred thing, is to stop it dead in its tracks and say, hey, these people have no standing in law or the Constitution if they're trying to use eminent domain for private use.
Right. And that's what they're seeing so far. It remains to be seen, because as I said, they're wanting to push through putting all of these towers up and then selling the power, which is backwards to me. It seems like you should already have your buyers in place and a need that has been expressed for it, and then to do this. But even if they're doing it for private, even if they're using eminent domain and it's not for public use, it's still unconstitutional. And last week Tom Martz was talking about that. I'm the one that has been picking his brain over this, because according to Article 1, sections, and it's 26, 27, and 28 of the Missouri Constitution that deal with eminent domain, Section 27 specifically says that in such manner and under such limitations as may be provided by law, the state, or any county or city may acquire by eminent domain such property or rights in property in excess of that actually to be occupied by the public improvement or used in connection therewith as may be reasonably necessary to effectuate the purposes intended, sorry, this is long, and may be vested with the fee simple title thereto, or the control of the use thereof, and may sell such excess property with such restrictions as shall be appropriate to preserve the improvements made. Okay, to me, the main part of that is only the government, according to our state constitution, only the government has the right to use eminent domain for public good. It's unconstitutional for the government to authorize or to grant the use of eminent domain to a corporation. There's nothing in the Constitution that allows for that. So House Bill 2005 that came out at the end of last session that said, okay, and it was specifically targeted for the Grain Belt Express, saying these corporations that are wanting to put up these transmitters, they can do so using eminent domain as long as they pay as long as they give 150% of fair market value to the landowner. So to me, that entire bill, from what I understand, and of course, with talking with Tom Martz, who is just the constitutional know-it-all. I don't mean that in a bad sense. But even that bill is unconstitutional because the government has no authority to grant eminent domain to any sort of corporation, regardless of if they want to use it for public good or private good. But especially now that we're starting to see they want to sell it off to private industries. That definitely goes against eminent domain. But you're right. I would love to see eminent domain just gone altogether, but I definitely think the government needs to stop giving the authority to corporations to use eminent domain.
I just had a thought, now it's gone. Dang it. Well, it's well, somebody made the comment that here in the live stream that it's
Yep.
federal dollars are tied to this, which
I see it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That I'm sure,
and they're absolutely right. These
Yeah.
corporations are receiving federal subsidies, and that's another issue. That if they're receiving federal subsidies, then as a sovereign state, we should be able to tell them no. If you cannot do this on your own without receiving federal funds, then you get out of our state. We should be able to make a law that says such. So I'm watching the thread too, but yeah, I see that, and they're absolutely right. These corporations, but just kind of back to the fact that over the past 8 years, they've only sold 4%. It's not economically feasible. So what I envision is if they do get these transmitters up, they're going to be sitting there.
well,
because people aren't going to buy them. And then now what do we do?
well,
Now what do these landowners do?
yeah. Here's the thing. Here's what I picture. I picture them fighting to get this through, to get it done, getting the lines all ran through these counties, getting the Tiger connector in and everything. And then them going to the government and saying, hey, we ran these transmission lines, but we only have 6% of it bought up. I can see the feds subsidizing those power lines and just saying, okay, well, here's the money. Thanks for running them, blah, blah, blah. And therein lies therein lies the problem, because now the feds are playing footsie with these guys, which means you keep getting people like Biden in office or worse, and the things that the EPA is doing, they're going to try to control how much power goes through those lines, and we could have a California all the way across the middle of the frickin' United States.
Right, yes. We definitely want rolling blackouts, right? As what's happening in California. Aren't they the ones that said by 2035 all cars will be, the electric will be electric? Okay, good luck with that.
And don't charge your electric vehicles.
You can't charge
right now.
you can't charge your vehicles. They can't charge their phones. They're having heat waves, and with the rolling blackouts, they can't run their air conditioner. It's ridiculous.
Here's my take on this, okay? And now people are going to say that this is not very nice or understanding, and I don't freaking care, okay? These people got exactly what they voted for. Now they're going to cry and bellyache and boohoo about this but they got exactly what they voted for. They put nuisance
Mm-hmm.
and these other smacktards in office, and they keep getting the same result. And I don't know how you sit there and it's like, oh, it's going to be really hot today. Well, that sucks. I can't run my air conditioner because, Bobby Butthole in office says I can't do it. And
Right.
it just, multiple people have made the point on social media that Arizona and Florida are way hotter than California, and they seem to be able to keep everybody supplied with electricity, and they can keep their air conditioners running. So it begs the question, how much has California regulated the industry so badly that they can't supply their people with enough power?
Right.
Now, again, listening to another podcast this morning, and they were saying that, like in Europe, because the problem with the natural gas and everything, because of what Russia shut down that pipeline and all this stuff, they were saying that now the governments like Britain and France and Germany and some of these, they're stepping in and regulating what the free, and trying to fix what the free market in Europe, has caused. That's their
Right.
headline. Even though now the thing they left out in that is apparently Great Britain said, all right, we're pulling back all the regulations on fracking for natural gas now, which the article left that
Right.
out because that's deregulation.
Right.
But, every government in the European Union has said they're going to subsidize and try to either fix the prices or make up the difference on what people are paying extra. So throughout the European Union, it's 500 billion euros that they're going to end up
Wow.
spending. But, that won't cause any inflationary issues just by creating more money out of thin air. It definitely won't cause any inflationary issues. I know. It doesn't have to do with Missouri, but it does because if this idiocy continues and it
This is
clean
what we're
energy,
looking at.
yeah, we're looking at the same freaking thing. And I so love when these morons get out here and splatter their crap all over every headline in a newspaper about this is what capitalism caused these things. Like, really? Did it? I love how they have to they say the free market or free market capitalism. We don't even have any. If those people had more than 2 brain cells to rub together, they'd have to admit that we do not live in a society with free market capitalism. It's a ridiculous notion, but again, their side's winning right now, so they're going to get out and push all this nonsense. Just like Rob Reiner the other day said, you have to vote for a certain party if you want, or you have to vote a certain way in order to protect democracy and the rule of law. And so I responded and said, oh, then I guess I don't need to vote for Republicans or Democrats. Got it. Now, he didn't respond because he's a lefty loony. Anyway, I'm getting way off track here.
That's okay.
So now that we've talked about this, what about this solar farm? Let's get into this whole solar farm thing.
Okay. Yeah, the solar. Oh my goodness, these solar farms. Yeah, my daughter is in Kansas City, and over the past, what are we up to now? 4 years that I have driven I-70, I have seen more of these solar farms along I-70 in Montgomery County and Callaway County. We have them in Lincoln County as well. So, hang on, let me switch gears, move all my papers around.
Well, while you're doing that, I want to bring up one thing, because here in Missouri, storms tend to follow 70 and the Missouri River. So you're going to put solar farms right in the way of Tornado Alley.
Yeah, and you're kind of ahead of where I'm going to be, but yes, you're exactly right. So these solar farms, okay, this is where I got a little off track. The companies putting up the solar farms in Callaway County is NextEra Energy out of Florida and Ranger Power in Chicago. They're currently developing solar farm projects in Callaway County. Ranger Power has amassed about 3,000 acres of land in northern Callaway County, which is strategically positioned next to an electrical substation in the former McCready Township. So yes, that's another big source of contention. Again, it requires the use of eminent domain to put them up, but a lot of the concern that I'm hearing, and rightly so, because from what I understand, what they're being told, the people in in these counties, and again, it's hard for them to get straight information. You know how this goes. But from what I understand is they're planning to have these solar farms up for about 40 years. Now, solar panels in general are only good for about 20 years. So you have what you were just talking about. Okay, we're out in Missouri. We have storms. We have hailstorms. We have windstorms. Birds fly into these things. Okay, they are made up of hazardous chemicals. They contain chemicals that the EPA has designated as hazardous. And do you know what? The EPA has not come out and done any studies. Why? Because the EPA is promoting green energy. They're not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, solar panels are toxic. This is bad for the environment, because that would go against their promotion of this whole green energy nonsense. But they are filled with, I'm going to pretend like I know what these are. Some of them I did look up. Cadmium tellurite, copper indium selenide, polyvinyl fluoride. So, of course, in the Midwest, as you mentioned, we have lightning, storms, hail, tornadoes, birds. Now, if one of these catches fire, and I've been reading about some that have caught fire, like in Florida, and so out in these counties, they have largely volunteer fire departments. You cannot put out a solar panel fire with water. I mean, that's just kind of, common sense. It can't be done. And so when these fires have happened, the firefighters show up and they have to wait for an IT specialist to come on the scene to help them put out the fire, because it requires certain chemicals to do so. Now, imagine out in these counties where they have volunteer fire departments, and I've watched some videos of them at some of their commissioner meetings, and firefighters talking about this, saying, we are not equipped to deal with a solar farm fire. I mean, that could quickly, during dry weather, and we have huge dry spells, how are they going to stop a brush fire if they're not equipped? And then we know what's going to happen. They're going to say, well, we need more tax money in order to purchase what's needed to be able to put out said fires. So, yeah, people want to say that they're not toxic, they're fine, but they get hit, and that's going to leak into the ground, and that's the other concern for farmers. And 30, 40 years from now, is that soil going to be farmable? That's a valid question, and that's a lot of their concern. When these solar farms come in 30 or 40 years, are we going to have farmable soil, or is it going to be filled with toxic chemicals?
Well, and I do know that I've seen posts lately, and I don't remember where I saw them at, but they were talking about even just rain. If you get a lot of rain, that cadmium is leaking off the solar panels into the ground, and nobody that should be addressing it is addressing it. So they didn't mention other chemicals, but they did say that I guess they do soil tests around there, and they're finding levels of cadmium, and they're like, where's this coming from? Well, it's literally just from rain falling on the solar panel.
Yeah.
Now, somebody wanted also to bring up, because we do have a heck of a lot of cold weather here in Missouri, and Texas had that thing in 2021 where they got super cold and their turbines froze up, and all these people. Well, I'm sorry, but Texas gets a cold spell once every 5-10 years. We get them every freaking year, just about.
Yes, yeah.
What's the plan with that? I ask them.
Right.
What is
and that's a good question. That's the problem. They are not offering these answers. From what I understand, these groups that are, going to the meetings and asking these questions when the corporations are there to present, what a great idea this is, they're not getting answers. They're not getting the answers to the what if. What if this should happen? What's the plan? They're not getting those answers. And so, like I said, right now I'm just trying to be a voice and to put this out there. A lot of this needs to go through, I'll find it in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, just talking to their commissioners. Let me see it. The other thing I wanted to get into is disposing of solar panels is a huge issue because in order to dispose of them, they have to be broken up, which then, all of these toxic chemicals come out. And so they're finding they can't leave them in landfills. I don't know what they're doing with them, but again, these are all new issues. So they're finding, well, now what do we do with them? When it comes time to dispose of them.
Well, they could be just like that one landfill in St. Louis that's got a bunch of radioactive material underneath in it, and it's constantly burning on the inside. And as far as I know, they haven't dealt with that yet. So maybe they'll just do the same thing. They'll just bury them all, and then they'll catch on fire and be like,
right.
We have no idea. It's so far in the ground. How do we get to it? I don't know what we're going to do. Yeah, we'll all just get cancer and die, and we'll just make your life easier. How's that, jackass?
Right. But again, this is going through our farmland. And I feel like this is a liberal attack on the heartland of America. I'm just going to put it out there because they just see our flyover state area as look at all that land and all that space. This would be a great place to put up some transmitters and solar farms. But we are an agricultural state, and again, back to that's the primary concern as they're taking up all the land, and down the road, are we going to be able to remain an agricultural state? I mean, that's a lot of our income. That's most of our income comes from agriculture. So one of the things I remember now what I was going to mention, the Missouri Public Service Commission, if you want to help out, that is who to contact, is the Missouri Public Service Commission, and letting them know that we don't want any private or for-profit companies coming into our counties and seizing the farmland through eminent domain. So just to kind of give you people that want to be involved and contact somebody, that would be the organization to contact, the Missouri Public Services Commission. But kind of back to these solar farms, I was reading solar panels generate 300 times more toxic waste per unit of energy than nuclear power plants. Let's see here. The average lifespan of a solar panel, as I mentioned, is about 20 years, but high temperatures can accelerate the aging process. Look at this past summer we had in Missouri. We were in the 100s for like months. So that's going to age them even more, which then causes the breakdown of all these toxic chemicals within the solar panels. We're right to be concerned about this. And like I said, we have them in Lincoln County as well. So do I have the answer for how to stop it? No. I wish I did, but I don't, other than mobilizing people to, as I said, contact the Missouri Public Service Commission, contact your county commissioners, whoever you can get to come on board with you to put a stop to this. Again, running for state Senate in District 10, this is something I plan to look into heavily and seeing what can be done, because I agree and I sympathize with these farmers. Again, we've already agreed that the use of eminent domain is not only unconstitutional in this instance, but it's just not morally right. But aside from that, how do we preserve our state as an agricultural state? And I think that's a question, that's a sincere question we should be asking. And putting in solar farms is not going to preserve us as an agricultural state, 30, 40 years down the road.
Well, you got that, and then you've got what we had here. It's happened several times. So the flooding gets bad along the Mississippi, and there's a levee they always want to blow up. And I can't remember the name of the town in Illinois that they're always trying to save, this small town. Now, they will be willing to flood 25,000 acres of farmland to save this one little town. And I'm like, what is in that town that's so important? You'll let every town up the river going north flood. But for some reason, this little town in Illinois, they try to save it all the time, and they want to blow the levees and flood, where they said it will take multiple generations for it to be farmable after said, blowing a levee to disperse the water.
Right.
And I'm like, what in the hell is in this town that is so freaking important? I don't understand. Now, I remember what I was going to talk about earlier, because we're talking about eminent domain, and we're talking about all these things. And here in the state of Missouri, we have what they call, and it's something I haven't gotten into, and I need to get into this topic. We have enhanced enterprise zones. And that is another thing that drives me batty. I haven't written many letters to the editor of the paper here in Owensville, but one time, because they were going to re-up it, I wrote a letter to the editor and said, hey, this is government picking winners and losers because you're only giving tax breaks or tax abatements to the big businesses that add so many jobs and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But you're leaving out restaurants, clothing stores, all that. So I write this letter, and some idiot from, I don't remember what it's called, some big zoning commission got on and actually wrote a rebuttal letter the next week and said, well, a lot of those jobs are part-time jobs or they're seasonal. And I'm like, really? A restaurant is seasonal? A clothing store is seasonal? And I was just blown away, because I was like, wow, I must have got really right over the target, because this guy's writing. But it's this eminent domain thing. It reminds me a little bit of enhanced enterprise zones, because government and corporations working together, mind you, corporations, not government and small business, government and corporations working together. And there used to be a guy that lived down in Exeter, Missouri, and I cannot remember his name. He had a podcast, and that guy wore the T-shirt on things like this, zoning, planning, all these things. The guy knew his stuff. And so he and another lady out of Idaho, which up there they call them I don't remember what they call it, something triangle, she called it.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So she was telling me that a corporation got in on this enhanced enterprise zone. And of course, because where they built, the city had to, add, let's say they had to add a turn lane to the highway. They had to run bigger water lines. Now, the city is covering all that cost to get this business in there. But it was run by a business that was out of the U.S. And so if there was an incident at this factory, let's say somebody was coming in to assaulting someone or whatever, if the sheriff showed up, he had to call the headquarters of that company to be allowed to be let into the building.
No.
And it's stupid stuff like this.
That's not good.
But, when you're talking about the firefighters and not having the equipment needed to fight a solar farm fire, and you're talking about, we'll just have to make that money somehow and get you the stuff. It reminded me of the enhanced enterprise zones, because when they're talking about these businesses coming in and they have fire suppression systems, so they run more water lines and all this, and all the city does is they buy these municipal bonds, and then when they come due, they don't have the money, so the tax revenue goes up. So the supposed people that are going to make more money because this corporation added jobs and raised the payroll, they lose it on the back end because they're taxed at a higher amount. So it literally comes up as no good. Same thing with this green energy crap, or these high power transmission lines. It's going to get subsidized, and then the people are going to have to pay for a quote-unquote private business using eminent domain to run their transmission lines the people are going to be stuck footing the bill because they jumped ahead of the game, ran all the power lines without any buyers. It's
Yep.
That's the other part of this that people
Yeah.
got to understand. It's not only that it's supposed to be a private enterprise using eminent domain, which is against the law and unconstitutional. It is, hey, they only have 4% of it, bought. So when this
Right.
runs through, don't be surprised if the government subsidizes it and then you get taxed at a higher rate to recover that money. So
Right.
you're
And with
losing.
the grain belt, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so to add insult to injury, you're going to suck up a bunch of farmland on a crap business plan, and they're not worried about it because they're going to get their money some way. But the people not only lose their farmland, they also get taxed at a higher rate, and that's as insulting
Right.
as you can get.
Right. I'm looking at an article. This is from July 11th. Talking again, we're kind of back to the grain belt a little bit. Talking about that the Chicago-based Invenergy, which is the organization behind the company behind the grain belt, they're planning to drop off about 10% of the power in Missouri. But the bulk of it will run all the way through the state of Missouri. So we get stuck with that. But kind of back to the eminent domain and House Bill 2005, when we're talking about, helping the government, helping one group over another, House Bill 2005, it contains several provisions that modify state statute as it relates to the use of eminent domain by certain electrical utilities. So again, we're going to grant more authority to one group than to another. And this is where it states that the compensation rate for agricultural or horticultural land is increased to 150% of the fair market value, which is determined by the court.
That's my problem, and that's something I was going to hit on earlier when you said that. Fair market value according to who? That's the problem. According to who? Because it won't be our fair market value. It'll be their fair. And they're going to, because they're buddies in the courts, they're going to, you might get 30, 40, 50,000 or more less.
Right.
Because the court deems it a fair value.
Right. It would require that court-appointed commissions tasked with determining the fair market value of a farmer's land during eminent domain proceedings include a farmer who has lived in the area for at least a decade. So, yeah, it's a court-appointed commission to determine what the fair market value is. And then this House Bill 2005, which people like my opponent, Travis Fitzwater, were all saying, yay, this is great for the farmers. They're going to get 150% of their fair market value, but who gives a crap that we're still using eminent domain to take away their land? I just find that appalling.
Well, I'm sure he's got some electrical co-op lobbyists working in his corner.
I tell you what, I could show you his MEC reports within the past 2 years. There are a lot of green energy PACs that have donated to him. So, yes, he is all in favor of this, at least according to his MEC reports.
Well, I'm sure he is. It's not, it's not hard to draw the lines between, when you've got somebody that's such a staunch supporter of something like this.
I'm sorry, what?
That that they're gonna, that where the money's coming from, and unless they're just literally sat on use the microwave somehow, fix it up so where they can use it when the door's open, and it literally fried their brain cells. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And,
absolutely.
I mean, it's hard to say. Some of these guys are so weird that they probably do rig their microwave to run even when the door is open, just because they think they have that kind of power. But then it shows in the way they supposedly govern when they're in session, because you're like, wow, did you do a bit of drinking before you came in this morning? Because that's the weirdest thing you've ever said. And you've said a lot of weird stuff.
Bother to not read the Constitution before you made that vote?
Well, and that listen, we both know that these jackasses love to talk about the Constitution when they, Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert, but I have enough understanding to know that they don't know diddly squat in that thing unless it's something that they can pervert and fool people with, like the feds do with the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
That's the only way they know it, is to pervert it and get people to go, oh, that sounds right. And then they just go along and you're like, did your mom smoke crack with you while she was pregnant? What is your deal? Why would you believe this? Why would you believe a politician when he probably, the last book he picked up was his checkbook to make sure that his lobbyist money hit his checking account? It's probably the last book he checked up or picked up.
Yeah. Like I always say, follow the money.
Right. Yeah. It's not hard. You can go online and find everything you need. It just takes a couple minutes. That's all you got to do. I've watched Patrick and his group do it with the old blocker, the old blocker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if they make lipid drugs for bill blockers in the House of Representatives, where you just throw a pill in there and it's like a giant Lipitor, and it just like the blockage stops. Poof.
Right. We'll work on that.
We'll call it Plockeries or something like that.
Yeah. There you go.
It's like
it's like the common sense pill, really.
Well, yeah, it's like getting rid of constipation. You know, you take a little X-Lax and you just blow all the crap out. Yeah, that's
right. There you go.
I shouldn't say that. It's okay. Whatever. I'm getting off track, and I told you I'm freaking.
That's okay.
I know
it's all right.
Oh.
Yeah, but I wanted to give just another story that happened recently with these solar farms in Florida, Jackson County, Florida. It was another instance of a volunteer fire department that battled a brush fire at this was a new solar panel field. And officials said that putting it out was very tricky. They have, they're dealing with low frequency but potentially high risk situations. And these are things that they're not used to responding to as volunteer fire departments. So they were able to ultimately able to prevent the spread of the wildfire, but it was because it was after the technicians arrived on the scene. Again, like, really, they're not equipped to do their job. And I mean, can you imagine during one of our droughts in Missouri, like we said, it doesn't take much for these things to catch on fire. And yeah.
Here's a thought. Okay, here's a thought. Because if it's so safe to be around, yada yada yada. Okay,
well, why don't they emit electrical noises? I mean, people can hear them. People that live near them, they tell me I can hear them buzzing.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think they should have a little hut for the IT guy to stay at. So when the fire hits, he can automatically do what he has to do before the fire department even. If it's so safe to be around, fine.
Exactly.
Put your IT guy in a little house out there, and if stuff goes sideways, he can type on his computer and shut everything down before the fire department even gets there. If it's so safe,
right?
It's clean. It's green. It's mean. It sounds like we're talking about a cleaner for your house, by the way, which it's not.
Yeah.
But it's not safe.
Whole clean energy, it's an oxymoron. It really is. So
it's like saying government intelligence.
Gosh. Well, I was reading, with what's happening in California. Who was it? I gotta find the moron who said this.
Well,
that essentially they're like, look at California. They are the state to look at for how wonderful green energy is working, or clean energy, and now they're having all of the rolling blackouts.
What? Listen. If I want to laugh, then I look at California. But if I want serious business, I take that back. If I want to laugh or get a lesson in how not to handle things, I'll look at California. If I want to be serious and I want things to go better, I'm definitely not looking west. I
No.
might, probably. Well, I can't look east. I can look north at Iowa because they do some all right things. And but I mean, we can't look east. We can't look west. We can look south a little bit, north a little bit, till you get up into Minnesota. Then it all goes sideways again. But I, who, how, how dumb do you have to be to utter those words? How can you utter those words and be serious?
Right.
Look at
Right.
California and they're cleaning. You mean the rolling
Well,
blackouts, you idiot?
they're part of the Biden administration, so
Oh.
I think enough said. But yeah, with these solar panels or these solar farms, I don't mean panels. I know people use panels on their homes, which I don't know if you heard about what Amazon did. They kind of kept it hush hush. They removed all of their rooftop solar panels for a while because they kept catching on fire. Yeah. Between 2020 and 2021, they temporarily took all solar panels offline to complete inspections because they were catching on fire on their warehouse rooftops. Yeah.
I guess that's what they mean when they have a barn burner of a sale. That's what they mean,
Right.
because they're
That's what
literally
they mean.
on
Like,
fire.
everything in the warehouse needs to go right now.
Like literally right
before
now.
it catches on fire. But one thing the town of New Bloomfield did in southern Callaway County, but because now again it's like I live in unincorporated Lincoln County. Lincoln County does not have zoning laws, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
However, you get into some of these other counties and that becomes problematic. So like the town of New Bloomfield in southern Callaway County, the town had planning and zoning. So they were able to make an ordinance that solar panels are a public nuisance. And that's how they were able to keep them out of their town.
Oh, that's genius.
It is genius. But there are so many other towns and just the county itself and all these other counties like Lincoln counties that don't have zoning or they don't have a board of planning and zoning. So, then it becomes a question of, well, do we establish one just for this? But, then that runs into all kinds of other issues. But yeah, I thought that was a brilliant way of handling, keeping solar farms out of their town. But, it doesn't do much good for other towns or counties that have no planning and zoning boards.
Well, see, now we have a planning and zoning commission in here in Owensville, and maybe I should maybe I should put my name in a hat for alderman. And if I only accomplish one thing, I can say no solar farms in the city of Owensville, because if you want to put them on your house, so be it. No solar farms because we consider them an eyesore, and they're uglier than homemade soap, and we don't want them.
Yeah, you put it down as a public nuisance. You pass an ordinance, make them a public nuisance, and they can't put them up.
Oh.
Yep.
And now, okay, so even us freedom lovers, once in a while we can find a good thing to come out of planning and zoning commissions. It's very rare. It's very rare. We should write this on the calendar and put up an historical marker. But, okay.
Right. But as an aside, though, I was on the Cotterville Planning and Zoning Board for about 4 years, and I was on the St. Charles County Board of Zoning Adjustment. And we need libertarians. We need liberty-minded people on those boards for those exact reasons. Because if you want to see government intrusion at its worst, just go to a Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. Fortunately, when I was on it, most of us were fairly liberty-minded, and we're like, you want to put your deck there? We'll give you the 5-foot variance, whatever. You're not hurting anybody. So, yeah, just as an aside, we need more liberty people on those kinds of boards when it comes to dealing with property and property rights.
Yeah, you do make a good point. I mean, I agree. It would be nice that you
Yeah.
know, you just keep saying, "Oh yeah, go for it, go for it, go for it." Where I know, like you told the story before, they're like, "Hey, stop being so freaking lenient all the time.
Yeah,
What are you
they called
doing?"
us into a whole meeting. We had an entire training meeting where they would give us examples of, and then they'd present the case, and then, so in this situation, would you grant the variance? And
Yep.
we're all like, yeah, and they're like, no. The answer is no.
No,
And
you
that happened every single case. The answer was no, but we're all like, yeah, we grant it. Yeah.
no, Colonel
Anyway,
Sanders, you're wrong.
no, but these were the bureaucrats. What could they do? We had the final say. They could give their recommendation for how we should vote on it, and they would. But, you know, again, when I was on the Board of Zoning Adjustment, we were most of them were libertarian leaning, or at least, you know, appreciated property rights. And it's like, well, and that, like I've said before, people would come in and they would have signatures from their neighbors that had said, we're okay with them doing this. This isn't going to bother us at all. So, okay.
All right.
You
Well,
bought the property. Anyway,
this
that's
is
a different story.
yeah. I just got a cut for the radio. So to those of you out
Okay.
there in KEYK land, thanks for joining me again this week. Next week, I will have Representative Tony Lavasco on. The following week, Daniel Miller from the Texas Nationalist Movement. So make sure you catch those. Thanks to everybody. Okay, moving on. Why did I just... That was dumb.
I know, we're talking about farms. You were just in the mood.
It was an unintended segue. Go me. All right, so you bring something weird out in me, Catherine. You're too liberty minded, and then you get me all keyed up. It's like smoking one of them fancy cigars. Gets you all
That's
fired
right.
up.
Well, that's what I had before I started the show. So
You had a fancy cigar before you.
I had a fancy cigar
Not me.
before I came on.
I smoked a little hemp flower to take the edge off, and it didn't work out very well.
Well, like we said, I've never smoked marijuana, but I do enjoy a cigar from time to time.
Well, see, this is hemp, so there's no high that comes from it. It's just
That's right.
yeah, it's
So
just a
boosting me
body
up a little bit.
relax. It just helps.
Yeah.
But it didn't take the edge off today. I didn't smoke enough, I guess. So now I'm just like,
Well,
"Arr!"
once your eyes are opened, nothing's ever going to take the edge off. I hate to tell you.
Yeah, that's true because I've been like this for a long time, and you know what? Here's what's funny. So when when my wife and I, for the past couple years, really, every day I listen to podcasts. I listen to Tom Woods. I listen to Ron Paul Liberty Report, and which I haven't listened to in a while, and Good Morning Liberty. Those are the three we listen to, mainly Tom Woods and Good Morning Liberty. So she would just kind of listen, and she'd have her eyes closed and she wasn't really saying much. But over the last year and a half, she really listens, and it's so funny because the faces that I would make or the face palming that I would do when I'm listening to some of this stuff, now she's doing it, and so I'm laughing hysterically at her because she's doing it now too, and I'm like, I've corrupted someone else. Ha 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 ha. It's amazing. They deal with a lot of federal stuff, but you're right. Once you get in, and they're covering all these things, they do what do they call it? Something dumb bleep of the week, where they go through like dumb tweets and dumb articles, and it is so glaringly stupid that unless you're just like, I don't really freaking care, you literally it sometimes I squint my eyes so hard trying to follow their line of logic that I could run off the road because I can't see where I'm going. But it is humorous because they add humor. But yeah, it's just funny because now she is actually going to come up to Jeff City on the 14th and walk with a bunch of us for to try to get the sales tax knocked off the groceries.
Okay.
So yeah, I now are you going to be able to make that or?
Oh, I'll be there.
Okay, cool, sweet.
I'll get up at the crack of dawn.
just for us. Missouri
Just for
Freedom
liberty.
Link. Yeah.
Woo!
Woo! Let's do this. I was going to... Okay, so let me ask you, and we can get back into this, but just
okay.
because I don't want to forget towards the end of the show. how are things going with you and your campaign? How are things looking right now for you?
They're looking good. Uh, hopefully my opponent's not listening. I doubt it, but anyway, we're going to start door knocking tomorrow, and I will be door knocking my butt off between now and the general election, because just in my past experience, I truly believe that's how you win elections. That's the best way to get your direct message to the voter. So, yeah, we'll be knocking doors. That's really kind of the game plan from here until November, getting in front of as many voters as possible and letting them know, hey, I'm Catherine Dreher, running for State Senate District 10. My opponent's the guy that passed the gas tax. How do you feel about that? Pretty simple.
You know what, though? With, again, the way inflation is right now, that's a sore subject.
It really is.
Unless you're just
really
loaded for bear with money and money is no object to you and it just doesn't matter how much you spend in gas. And
yep.
that is a glaring, you would. I don't know why these guys think. They just must be on some mad power trip to think that they can vote for stuff like this and just keep their job, because now some of them have, but some of them are, we saw what it did to Dave Schatz, who went try for U.S. Senate and got the floor mopped with him, which was, God, that was a beautiful thing to witness. And that ruined his political career. I would like to see it ruin some others. Like, again, when they were working on it and trying to get it through, I heard Rudy Veit on Austin Peterson's show. Man, that dude was trying so hard to come up with good reasons why we need to do it. And Austin's like, well, Rudy, you make a lot of money. Maybe we should have a wealth tax here in Missouri, And he's like, well, I don't make that much money, but I know we don't need any more taxes, but we don't really have a choice. Sometimes we, the position we got to make a hard decision. Austin's just turning the screws on. I mean, he's dancing like somebody lit him up with a 9-volt battery, but at the end of the day, it's like, dude, you knew who was coming into office. You knew what could happen, and you did it anyway. And I'm sorry. Now, I know it's only been in effect for so long, but I'm driving back and forth to work. I don't see the ditches getting mowed. There's a lot of stuff that I see that's not getting done. It's like, hello, you said you needed the money. You're getting the money.
Right, and it's a tax that will increase every year.
Right, 2.5 cents per year
until we can repeal it. Yes, which I want to do. I want to repeal the darn gas tax. So that's pretty much it. I'm getting some good support from the Libertarian Party, good support from Republicans, because again, I was in the Republican Party for a long time, made a lot of friends, have some good networks. And they see Fitzwater for what he is, a rhino, and they don't want him any more than I do. Now if they're not going to come out and publicly endorse me, heaven forbid, that could ruin their career as a Republican. But, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I understand. This is just the nature of politics. It's ugly and it's stupid, but that's the nature of politics. So I get it. But that doesn't mean I'm not getting some good advice from some good people for my campaign. So, like I said, I feel like I'm in a good position. Can I match him money-wise? No. But at this point, it doesn't matter. I don't see that he's going to do anything for the general election. I don't see him doing anything. I don't think he thinks he needs to do anything, which works in my favor.
Yeah, I hope he stays silent. I hope he just shuts up and goes on.
And he's pretending like I don't exist. Yeah, and it's just interesting. Just more things start coming out. Like Moms Against Common Core have been talking about I can't think of the name of the organization that's supposed to be for school choice, but it's really a backwards form of school choice, and they're coming out against it. I think it's I don't want to say it because I'll get it wrong. I'd have to look it up again. But anyway, Travis Fitzwater received over $100,000 in contributions from them 8 days prior to his primary. So little things like that just kind of fall in my lap. I'm like, hey, oh, by the way, you really hate this organization? Guess who they gave a whole lot of money to? So, yeah. And all I have to do is share the truth. I'm not sharing anything that anybody couldn't find on their own. I'm just bringing out the truth about him, bringing out the truth about me. You know, this is what I stand for. It's not what he stands for. And based on how the primaries went and our recent election, people are sick of the rhinos. I'm seeing that. So it's a matter of getting them to look past the L and saying, forget about that. Is that who you want as your representative versus somebody like me who wants to repeal the gas tax, who would love to repeal all taxes, honestly, but is going to fight for your liberty. So to answer that question, I'm feeling positive. You know, I know I'm a long shot. I'm not naive about that at all, but I'm still a shot. And if nothing else, I work my butt off. And come election time, even if I lose, I want people to be like, oh my gosh, look at how many votes the Libertarian got. And that's going to send a message.
Yeah, I wish that we could get people past the point of, especially liberty lovers, getting them past the point of, oh, well, they got an L behind their name.
Yeah.
Like all these people with R's behind their names, how good have they been? And you still gonna vote for them? Like,
yeah, it's hard to get some people over that tribal mindset. It just is. And there's going to be people that it's just they're not going to get over that. But I think the time is ripe that there are enough people tired of it. So that's an opportunity for me. That's where I plan to seize opportunity is with those voters that are tired of seeing especially representatives like Fitzwater making votes like a Democrat. You know, he voted for the 5-3 map. Now, for Democrats, they're like, oh, we'd love that. But Republicans, like, oh my gosh, we don't want more Democrats in D.C. Well, hey, guess what? Fitzwater voted for that map. So.
And you're talking about taxes and everything. I mean, I don't get the local paper, but I walked past the newsstand, and I'm pretty sure I saw an article saying that, the city, a lot of cities are, because, of course, the more expensive things are, the more tax revenue they generate. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, the town's really making record income. And that's another reason that I'd love to throw my name in the hat for city alderman, because I'd love to go up there, find out how much money that we have, and then just, I don't know, I'm sure it would really make them angry, but I'd love to say, we ever thought about just giving a rebate on some of this money back to the citizens since, we're just sitting here hoarding money? Can we just give everybody back so much? Just every citizen that in town gets a little bit of their money back just to watch their faces. They'd be like,
right.
What? And like, you heard me. You're
going to show up with your red Sharpie when they pull out the budget. Nope.
I don't know. I just
put a line through it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing all these things, and these cities are, again, cities, counties, states are seeing record tax revenues. Yeah. And you're thinking, okay, maybe give a little bit of that back. And they're like, whoa, easy now, buddy. Easy. We have needs and wants too. Now it's like, no, you got a lot of wants. You don't have many needs. You got a lot of wants.
Right.
And, again, like I believe one of the last figures I heard, I'm talking like $4.5 million surplus here in Owensville. That's what I heard.
Really? Wow.
And one of the officers here in town that I talk to a lot says, you know what? Okay, I can see keeping about $1.5 million of that for, emergency purposes or whatever. He's like, but come on, do something. If you're not going to give it back, do something meaningful. The streets are in disrepair. They came through and they redid so many, but now they're turning to crap again. I mean, Use it for something that everybody, the sidewalks kind of suck. The streets in a lot of areas. Okay, so if you're not going to give it back, do something good with it, okay? Don't sit here and hoard it like you're a pirate. Because if you keep acting this way, I'm going to give each and every one of you an eye patch and a parrot. And every time I come up to that meeting, I expect you to be wearing that eye patch and having that parrot on your shoulder.
Right.
Because, where is the check? Yeah, where is the booty at? It just, but
what are they hanging on to it for?
Here's the thing, Catherine. So just a little background history. We were in an electric co-op called MOPEP, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, MOPEP is unregulated. Now, here's the stupid thing. The city attorney signed off on it, and the alderman signed off on it. We were with Ameren. We went to MOPEP. Now we're back with Ameren. Apparently, according to the attorney, he didn't download every page of the contract. He didn't see where you had to give 2 years' notice to get out. He didn't see you had to find 3 other towns that would take your place. Didn't see any of that and said, looks great, do it. So what Owensville did was let's say whatever MOPEP was charging them for their electric, the city randomly every month it would change. Sometimes they'd add a cent per kilowatt hour. Some months it was 2 cents. Some months it was 3 cents. And they were using that money to either pay bills or the city employees. Somebody took out like a half-page ad. The Concerned Citizens Group here in town put out this huge thing in the paper and said, hey, did you realize that like the street department, electrical department workers are getting, not paying a dime for, Carhartt coats, work boots,
oh my goodness,
full insurance for all family members, all this stuff. And when that hit the paper, people came undone.
Right.
And we had to fight for 2 or 3 years, and we finally got out of MOPEP.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you, they just, it's going to be so much better with MOPEP. And it's like, really? And so talking to people about their electric bills, one woman was moving into her house. So she would leave a light on so nobody would break in. And then they'd move a few things in and then they'd wait. And so she's like, we had the refrigerator and some other things plugged in. Her electric bill was $225 in that month.
Oh my gosh.
And so come to find out, they weren't reading the meters, they were doing estimated readings. So there were people that would literally have a camera every day and would go out and take a snapshot of their meter. And then every month they were up at City Hall going, now look at this. This is from today, or this is from the date of my bill. What's with the discrepancy? And then they'd refigure it and bring the number down. Yeah, they were doing estimated readings, so they weren't even reading meters.
Oh, my goodness.
And then you're talking about this Grain Belt Express, and I'm like, that just brings back horrific memories to me of what. Now, I wasn't living in city limits at that time.
Right.
But I just remember the horror stories. In fact, this is how bad it got. The electric bills were getting so bad that people would clear out. They would go get a different house. They were literally turning the keys into the bank and said, you can have it. Because their electric bill was as high as their freaking mortgage sometimes.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah. We had, in a town of around 2,000 people, at one time, there were almost 100 vacant houses in town.
Wow.
That's how bad it got. So we were in debt so bad because we got behind a few months on paying MOPEP that they had to take out a second mortgage on one of the fire stations and some other stuff to get it caught up.
Right.
And they were one bad decision away from bankruptcy. And so they went from that extreme to this extreme of just hoarding money. There's no happy medium. They went from that, oh my God, we almost went completely broke, and to, we're flush with cash now. Okay, can't you find a happy medium here? I mean, what are you doing? So yeah, this town, everybody thinks that big cities are screwed up, and a lot of them are. But boy, you can have a complete cluster, you know what, in these in Podunkville.
some of these small towns, it's old. It's like it's old families that have been around for a long time, or good old boy clubs. Oh yeah, I've seen it, and it's hard to break through.
Yeah, yeah, it's been interesting,
Yeah,
and I mean, we do have better people up there now than what we had back in the days of MOPEP. I mean, we had a former alderman stand up and say one time, "You should never get rid of MOPEP because that generates revenue for the city." It's like, excuse me, the city should not be in the business of generating revenue for itself with power. Uh, I was pretty sure that the Hancock Amendment, which I think some people brought up, these cities are not allowed to. Now, anybody out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but cities are not allowed to generate electricity for to generate revenue. Now they can generate it and sell it at cost, but they're not allowed to make money off of utilities. That's what
right.
somebody said. Now, I don't know if that's actually true, but that was an argument that people were making. And if that is true, I'm sure we got
Hmm.
more than one town here in Missouri that's breaking that.
Well, sure.
You know, I mean, that's what got us this gas tax. You can't raise it over 10 cents without a vote of the people. So what they do, they only went 2.5 cent increments over 5 years, and they're like, we're not breaking the Hancock Amendment now.
Right.
You know, because some people, I know, like Tom was saying that people said that broke the Hancock Amendment, and if I was sitting in my head like, no, they didn't, because that's 10 cents requires a vote. Anything under 10 cents does not require a vote of the people. Now, the problem is we voted it down 3 times, and the idiots brigade up there decided to do it anyway and cram it down our throats. But that is neither here nor there.
Right.
Do you have anything else for us tonight, Catherine?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, I could talk more about the solar farms, but
I mean, if you got something else to add, feel free.
Well, sure. Just some of the other issues with these solar farms, these solar companies, in Callaway County, the solar companies, they're signing leases with landowners under limited liability companies. So they create entities that go by, that are LLCs. And so they're specifically designed to have, limited liability so that if the subsidy money dries up or they no longer want to honor their contractual obligations, they can simply dissolve the LLC, or they can sell them to other companies, which may or may not be local, could even be foreign. So that's one of the other things that's happening with these solar farms out in Callaway County. Also, a lot of them are lobbying state reps to keep their solar farms taxed as agricultural land instead of commercial land. So the difference in tax amounts that the local community realizes is huge. So, just by doing that, well, for one thing, it decreases the land value, but then it means that they can lease it for less from farmers. So it's just some of the dirty, rotten stuff that these solar farms, solar companies are up to. So more of that. It's ridiculous.
More government corruption, you say? We got you. We got you covered there. We got you 10 ways to Sunday. Woo!
I know, and it still just frustrates me that instead of blocking eminent domain, Republicans they just compromised. They like, okay, well, we don't know, we'll give you the eminent domain, but you have to give them the 150% fair market value, and they have a 7-year time limit for companies to build the transmission lines after they've obtained their easements. All of this it's pretty much all has to be done through eminent domain, which is, that's really where the battle is at. How do we?
That just gives us something else to. That just gives the Missouri Freedom Initiative something else to try to get after. After some other things are done.
Exactly.
let's
I mean, the
go after
legislators
eminent
could have shut
domain.
this down. They could have shut it down and said, no, we're not going to grant you the use of eminent domain. But they didn't. And instead they said, well, okay, we'll let you use eminent domain as long as you pay 150% fair market value. And from what I've heard, I haven't verified this, but, you know, being in a lot of these groups, what I've been reading is the most so far they're getting is 110% of fair market value. So,
Listen, Catherine, I don't know if
a lot of corruption.
I don't know if you had the intent of coming on here and trying to make my head explode, but you're doing a fantastic job. No, I'm just.
It makes my head explode. Once I knew that this had been going on, but once I joined with these groups and really started investigating and just listening to the people, it makes my head want to explode. There's just so much corruption in it, and so much that the government is, aiding and abetting these corporations to do this. Yeah, it boggles my mind, and it's corrupt, it's unconstitutional. But again, these people that are having this happening, on the farm next door, or these corporations are coming to them. They're in a hard situation. So, I mean, I'm glad you asked me to come on and to speak out about this, and I hope it will embolden, I guess is the word, more people to start looking into this and to start sharing about it and see, well, what can we do? I don't want to look at Missouri 30 years from now and be driving down 70 and seeing nothing but solar panels and this, these towers, these emission towers, because that's not our state. I don't want that to be our state. I know these farmers don't want this to be our state. They want to be able to farm on their land. These are farmers that they're generational farmers, and they want to maintain the quality of their soil. So,
it is disheartening to say the least.
It is.
It's awful. Well, Catherine, thanks again for some great conversation and
you're welcome.
All the great information as usual. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you at again? So if somebody's news listening and they want to find more out about you,
sure.
Where do they go?
Yeah, well, the best place to keep up with me is on Facebook. Just look up Catherine Dreher, State Senate District 10. I do have a website where you can make a donation if you like. It's just catherinedreher.com. But I do also encourage folks to Google some of these groups: Callaway County Against Solar Farms, Audrain, Monroe County Against Solar Farms. I think there's a new one, Montgomery County now Against Solar Farms, and these electrical transmissions, and find out how to get involved, how we can help. Yep.
All right. Well, again, Catherine, have a great weekend. Thanks again.
Well, thank you. You too.
Maybe I have you on here pretty soon again. If you come across anything else you want to talk about, let me know, and I'll make another spot for you, and we'll discuss something new and different. Because I really didn't know anything about this, so when you brought it up, I was like, heck yeah, let's do this, because I'm going to learn something new that I was really unaware of. Now I feel ashamed of myself, but that's why I have people like you on to make my noggin bigger. So, again, you're doing great stuff, Catherine. I appreciate your effort. Look forward to seeing you on the 14th. And great, good luck with your campaign. And again, you need some more airtime. You let me know, and we'll make it happen.
All right, great. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you as well.
Yep. Take care, Catherine.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. So something else to occupy our minds. I mean, again, I knew eminent domain was, constitutional here in Missouri. Yeah, that just sounds disgusting to say. It's something else that we need to really look at. This green energy, this clean energy, all this stuff that they're pushing at us. They want that nationwide. They want control of the power grid. I mean, in essence, that's, we all know it. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's control of the power grid. Look what they did in Denver with 22,000 smart meters where they couldn't adjust it beyond 78 degrees. So, what else? What else can you say? You don't have to give any other examples except for California. That's the main one. And then, you use the example of what was done in Denver, some other things. I mean, it's just a nightmare. Just a nightmare. But we have work to do, folks. That's just putting it lightly. We've got work to do. We got, first things first, sales tax on groceries, getting that eliminated, not added. It sounded like I was like, let's put sales. No. Getting the sales tax eliminated from groceries. And then in this legislative session that's coming up, working on gold and silver and some other things. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'll let Patrick and his group go into all that and let them handle it. Again, I remind you on Saturday nights at 7:30, look for Missouri Freedom Initiative on YouTube. Follow and join in on the live stream every Saturday night. Patrick and his group gets on and discusses all things Missouri. So make sure you find Missouri Freedom Initiative on YouTube Saturday nights at 7:30 p.m. Also, don't forget to check out MOLibertyRadio.us, especially on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time with Sam and Trish Britton, Off the Cuff Radio. I'm telling you, lots of good information on that show, and they cover things just like what Catherine and I we're discussing amongst a myriad of other things. They get into all kinds of topics. So make sure you check them out as well. Again, the numbers keep looking good. The subscriber numbers keep going up. The views keep going up. So everybody, again, appreciate everybody's help spreading the word. If you know somebody that hasn't followed me yet or hasn't watched the live stream, I just ask that you direct them. Hit that like button, hit that follow button, and let's grow the message of freedom and liberty here in Missouri. So just a reminder, next week is Representative Tony Lavasco, and then the following week will be Daniel Miller from the Texas Nationalist Movement. And then I'm going to try to I think Jesse Rude's going to try to help me get a hold, I want to say his name is Pete Engel, who is a constitutional specialist. He's one of those guys that knows the Constitution like the back of his hand. I want to have him on because Tom March speaks very highly of him. So I'm going to get him on. But Jesse was telling me he was up in, I think he said South Dakota, North Dakota, somewhere in there. And he doesn't know if it was a state rep or a U.S. congressman from that state that was going to get up and brag about how much federal money he could bring into the state. But Pete Engel, he got up first, and he explained to everybody how that is unconstitutional, and that is wrong. So he just took that guy's argument and set it on fire before the man got to speak a word. And so I'd like to have him come on because we have such a problem in the state of Missouri with taking federal money. Let's get a guy on that knows the business here and can explain it to where everybody can understand it and give some more reasons why taking federal tax money, if it's not obvious enough the way it is now, why it's such a bad idea. So I will be getting in contact with him as well. Also, got to send another email out to Eric Peters from Eric Peters Autos. Also going to try to get on Michael Bolden. I got to get an email or something sent to him and try to get him on the show as well next month. Now, starting in October, if I'm correct, Patrick should be joining me for the first Friday of every month to talk all things Missouri, because Missouri Liberty Report, Missouri Freedom Initiative. So, guess I didn't even have to say that. But yeah, Patrick will start coming on with me once a month, first Friday of each month, to discuss things going on in the legislature, things we'd like to work on. and, just things of that nature. So that is coming up as well. But again, I bid you all adieu. Thank you for the downloads, the listens, the views on the live stream. Appreciate all of you. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you all next Friday with Representative Tony Lavasco to talk about all kinds of things. We'll get into the special session a little bit, and I'm hoping to pick his brain on civil asset forfeiture. Even though Amendment 3 has been done, the governor said he has no interest in visiting HB 2704. I still want to pick Tony's brain on that. And a myriad of other things, I'm sure, because Tony seems like he's a great guy. I've only met him one time, talked to him a few minutes face-to-face, but seems like an awesome dude, so I'm looking forward to that conversation. So anyway, folks, we'll see you next week here on the Missouri Liberty Report. Take care. Okay, guys, appreciate all of you joining in with me. Appreciate all the comments, the questions, all that good stuff. Good to see you all in here. We'll see. Wednesday is a big day. You're right, Grant. And I will see you Wednesday, Grant, and Patrick, and anybody else that makes it. Look forward. Again, got my wife. Asked my wife if she wanted to come along, so she's going to come along with us and walk the halls of the Capitol as well to talk to reps and senators. So I'm excited for that because now I can bring my very special lady with me into the fold as well. And Voodoo Queen, good night to you, and good night to everyone else. And I will see you all Saturday night on Patrick's live stream. And also, I did not mention this on the radio side, but September 17th, my friend Jesse Rude is going to be doing a big live stream for Constitution Day, which is a Saturday, starting at 2. We're going to work out some details. I think we're going to try to just stick with his live stream. I'll jump in. Pete Engel will be there. Robert Smith will be on. Patrick will be on there. So a lot of guests. That's from the constitutional grassroots movement. But Jesse and I have to do some experimenting as far as three-way calls, routing that audio through Skype and OBS, seeing if we can make that work. And if we can, then should be awesome, and that's something else. So, yeah, September 17th, Constitution Day, Jesse will be doing a big live stream event. And Gary got to see you up there one time before. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you there as well, Gary. All right, folks, I'm going to stop talking now. Have a great weekend, everybody, and let's go up there and kick some butt on Wednesday, shall we?